Chairman Powell, I want to thank you for bringing to the attention of this committee over the last several years the systemic risk posed by tough legacy LIBOR, some $16 trillion of instruments where we would not know the interest rate that the debtor is supposed to pay the creditor, and $16 trillion is a big problem. We passed the relevant bill back in March, and for those who think Congress can't possibly deal with a problem until after the last minute, we passed it a year and a half before the LIBOR hit the fan. That bill requires rulemaking by the Fed, and the rulemaking is supposed to be done by mid-September, and that would put us in that's the final step in making sure that these LIBOR instruments are not a subject of uncertainty, because even 1 basis point, a thousandth of a percentage point of risk or uncertainty, turns out to be significant when you're dealing with $16 trillion. So Chairman Powell, can we count on the Fed in getting these regulations out by mid-September?
Yeah, so by the way, thank you for all of your efforts on this technical problem, which have really helped move it along. And in terms of the rule, yes, we know the deadline. We know it's a tight deadline, and I'm assured that people are working very hard to meet that deadline.
Thank you. You're shrinking your balance sheet. A lot of focus on how much you're shrinking your balance sheet, but it also, what matters is the content of the balance sheet. You can invest in treasuries, or you can invest in mortgage-backed securities. If you go to an all-treasury portfolio and sell off your mortgage-backed securities, that'll probably raise mortgage rates. And we're trying to deal with housing inflation and housing affordability. So whether it's the mortgage on an apartment building that might be built, or whether it's a home mortgage, keeping mortgage rates low, I would think would help inflation. Is there any possibility that you would take a look at that and perhaps keep in your portfolio some of your mortgage-backed securities, and perhaps have a mix of mortgage-backed securities and treasuries in your balance sheet?
So we're committed to having a mostly treasury, not all, but mostly treasury balance sheet, and we don't have that now. And you know, treasuries are going to start to roll off, mortgages much less. So we have not decided to start selling mortgage-backed securities, but we've said that we'll look at that again when this process is further along. And if we do, I don't actually think that the things we would do would have much of an effect on mortgage rates compared to, well, the effects that we've already had.
Yeah. We have obviously faced a recession risk. Biden says that a recession is not inevitable. Do you agree?
I don't think that a recession is inevitable.
Thank you. There seems to be a great debate in this committee as to whether inflation is the result of COVID and the effects of the Ukraine war, which affect the entire globe, or whether they are the result of Biden and his policies, which, believe it or not, are not applicable to Germany, Britain, or Canada, as much as we in America like to think that we are the entire world. And then we look at inflation rates, and we see higher month-to-month inflation rates in Canada and Germany than here in the United States, higher year-on-year in Germany and the UK. So we're in a situation where only if you believe that Biden is responsible for German inflation can you reach the conclusion that it's Biden's policies that have caused inflation in the United States, which is pretty much on a par with what we see in other developed countries, particularly Europe. A part of this is the idea that if Biden just gives a speech saying we'd like to see a fossil-free future, that somehow impairs the amount of oil that is produced in the United States and somehow then affects worldwide oil prices. I would put into the record this article from Forbes titled, U.S. oil companies have increased drilling by 60% in 1 year. And without objection, I hope that could be done.
Without objection.
And I would point out that we had higher oil production in this country in the first year of Biden than the last year of Trump. Then we had higher oil production in 2022 than 2021. And in 2023, we will have the highest oil production in the United States in our history. Unfortunately, that'll probably not be the lowest gas prices in our history. So whether it's good or bad, we've discovered that making speeches does not suppress
Gentleman's
oil
time has
production.
expired.
I yield back.